Hello there, good evening and welcome to the National News Broadcast. I'm Niket Karunaratne.
And I'm Kasuri Balachandra. Here are your top stories for tonight.
USAID has expressed its continuous support to revitalize Sri Lanka's economy. Aswasuma beneficiary July installments have been credited to relevant bank accounts. Minister Tiranala says that some allegations made by opposition parliamentarians over Easter Sunday attacks are baseless. An income of $15 billion are expected by 2030 through the enhancement of the digital economy. Anti-terrorist operations are going on in Nagorno-Karabakh in Azerbaijan. Dasan Shanaka will lead the Sri Lanka team during the World Cup cricket tournament.
On to those and other stories in detail now. Administrator of the USAID, Samantha Power, says that they provide continuous support to the attempts taken by Sri Lanka to revitalize its economy.
She gave this assurance when she met President Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday in sidelines with the 78th UN General Assembly. The meeting was held in New York. President Ranil Wickremesinghe expressed his gratitude to Samantha Power over the support extended to Sri Lanka by the USA during the economic crisis. She pledged to further extend its support for Sri Lanka's efforts to revitalize its economy. She further said that required expertise in this connection will also be provided to Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, official meeting between President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was also held in New York yesterday. The two leaders extensively discussed the importance of expanding bilateral cooperation as to South Asian member states. Bangladesh Prime Minister further said that she did not expect Sri Lanka would be able to pay the loan obtained from Bangladesh without any delay. However, Sri Lanka settled the loan within the scheduled time period. This has shown that Sri Lanka has gradually achieved economic progress. She also pointed out that Sri Lanka would be able to enhance its economy even further. At this discussion, President Ranil Wickremesinghe expressed Sri Lanka's gratitude towards Bangladesh for the support extended to Sri Lanka at a challenging period. The President also stated that he would make an official visit to Bangladesh as per the invitation made earlier. President Ranil Wickremesinghe also met Nepal Premier Pushpa Kamal Dahal in New York today. The two leaders lengthily held discussions on further developing political, economic and trade relations. President Wickremesinghe pointed out that the opening session of the Sri Lanka-Nepal Joint Commission, which is scheduled to be held at the end of this year, would be a significant step in this connection. Nepal Prime Minister expressed his confidence to further extend bilateral relations between the two countries. They also focused attention to promote educational opportunities and relations in the tourism sector between Sri Lanka and Nepal. President Ranil Wickremesinghe also met the chairman of Global Relations Divisions in the Meta International Company of New York, Sir Nick Clegg, yesterday. President Wickremesinghe explained to him over the measures taken by Sri Lankan government to control the spread of hate speech and incorrect information through social media. The two envoys agreed to have a partnership in the artificial intelligence sector between the Sri Lankan government and Meta. The company also expects to start cooperative programs for the development of Sri Lankan universities. The President stressed that his prime goal is to develop artificial intelligence in Sri Lanka, focusing special attention to the education sector and to minimize the effects caused by climatic change. The 78th General Assembly session was kicked off at the UN headquarters in New York. The Sri Lankan delegation headed by the President is now participating in the session. All the state leaders who attended the assembly were warmly accepted by the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that we are unable to be happy whatsoever regarding the global progress in achieving sustainable development goals.
Sri Lankan President pointed out to the international community that only 12% of progress has been achieved in this process.
The current progress of the SDG is globally unsatisfactory. Only 12% of the targets are on track, while we have not made any progress in 30% of the other targets. We have discussed the scaling up of actions to ensure the acceleration of the SDG progress. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which includes the 17 SDGs, was adopted by the United Nations member states in 2015. Around the same time, in 2015, the Paris Agreement was adopted by 196 countries at COP21. Thus, we had two highly progressive, responsive and far-reaching programs, but extremely limited resources dedicated to their success. When the global pandemic struck in 2020, it meant that these programs suffered further setbacks. The question now raised is whether SDGs are even attainable in the current scenario. Take the example of Sri Lanka. In 2019, we estimate that 9% of our GDP would have to be invested to achieve these targets. Following the pandemic and the economic crisis, this is now not realistic. The Climate Prosperity Plan of Sri Lanka requires US $26.5 billion to be implemented before 2030. But where can countries such as mine find such funding? In 2019, we estimate that 9% of our GDP would have to be invested to achieve these targets. Following the pandemic and the economic crisis, this is now not realistic. The Climate Prosperity Plan of Sri Lanka requires US $26.5 billion to be implemented before 2030. But where can countries such as mine find such funding? Asia and Africa. Today, even countries which have been spared bankruptcy are struggling. The G20 summit reiterated that developing countries require financing up to 5.9 trillion US dollars by 2030 to fulfill their nationally determined contribution.
Adding more local stories, State Minister Shahan Singh says that Aswasuma beneficiaries of 113,713 whose accounts have been confirmed have been provided with benefit allowance for July. In a Twitter message, the State Minister says that the relevant funds have been credited to the relevant banks. A sum of nearly 710 million rupees have been credited to the relevant banks so far. These banks will credit these funds to the relevant accounts of beneficiaries. The government has paid a sum of 7,278 million rupees to 1,162,245 families for the month of July. State Minister Shahan Singh further says that all beneficiaries will be paid with the allowances upon completion of the surveys regarding the appeals and objections.
A special discussion to enlighten the parliamentarians over the investigation report of the Easter Sunday attacks was held yesterday under the patronage of Minister Tiran Alas. Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security, Viyaniguna Tilaka, IGP C.D. Vikrama Ratna and top officials representing the CID and the TID also participated at this discussion held in the Parliament premises. A group of ruling and opposition parliamentarians were also present at this discussion. The investigation officers answered the questions raised by the parliamentarians in connection with the investigations. The parliamentarians expressed their gratitude to Minister Tiran Alas for the clarification over the investigations.
Minister Tiran Alas says that some allegations levelled by opposition parliamentarians regarding the Easter Sunday attacks are baseless. The minister made this comment in reply to a question raised in the parliament today. Meanwhile, Minister of Education Susil Premajand said that teacher trainees of colleges of education will be enrolled without delay.
Past
Samagijana Balavege parliamentarian Hector Apuhami said that the Presidential Commission report has named several officials as responsible for this matter. Legal actions should be taken against them. The government must reveal who are these officials and what posts are they holding at present. Have they been given any promotions? Minister Tirunala said that the Presidential Commission report has not levelled allegations against any police officer. The Commission has recommended the Attorney General to carry out further investigations regarding this matter. After carefully studying the recommendations, the Attorney General should decide to take legal actions accordingly.
Now, Treasurer of the Sri Lanka Information Technology Industry Federation, Indika de Soisa, says that it is expected to add $15 billion to the gross domestic production by 2030 upon the enhancement of digital technology. He revealed these facts at a press briefing held in the President's Media Centre regarding the National Information Technology Conference 2023. Digital economy provides an income of $3.7 billion to the GDP at present. Indika de Soisa pointed out that this amount can be increased up to $15 billion in line with the program Digicon Sri Lanka 2030, implemented under a concept of the President. The National Information Technology Conference will be held for the 41st occasion under the title of Towards Sustainable Digital Society from the 11th to the 13th of October. This conference has been organized by the Sri Lanka Computer Society.
Minister Dr. Bandara Gunawardena says that to face the existing economic crisis, people should think young and innovatively, casting off their conventional thinking and attitudes. The minister made this comment participating at the opening ceremony of Reawakening Negombo Beach Carnival. This carnival will be held for 2 days in the Negombo coastal belt. It has been jointly organized by the Western Provincial Tourist Board, Negombo Tourism Services Suppliers Association and the Tourist Hotel Owners Association. This festival is included with kite competitions, food festivals and cultural shows. Minister Dr. Bandara Gunawardena said that the government expects to start a new tourist railway service from Colombo to Puttlam via Negombo. The government will work with the Western Provincial Tourist Board to use railway services to promote tourism industry in the western coastal belt. We have to think in an innovative manner to win the existing economic challenges. More stories right after this break. Welcome back, and in more local stories tonight, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena says that it is a special responsibility for teachers, students and parents to work collectively in developing the education of children. The Prime Minister made these remarks participating in a ceremony held at the Vidyartha Vidyalaya in Koskama recently. The 75-year-old Koskama Mahavidyalaya has been renamed as Koskama Vidyartha Vidyalaya, with several changes in the education system last year. To mark its first anniversary, a ceremony was held under the title of Vidyartha Janmabhivandana under the patronage of Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena. The Prime Minister also distributed certificates and awards to the winners of Inter-School Skills Competition. A group of students performed their cultural activities at this ceremony. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena said that the government has to face the challenges of providing knowledge to students and successfully planning them to overcome the difficulties in this process.
In further news, parliamentarian Vajira Abewardena says that it is regrettable that there are some distorted ideas expressed on social media regarding the Parliament Select Committee. He made this comment at a press briefing held in Colombo today. Parliamentarian Vajira Abeyewardena said that we must really be regretted on expressing distorted views through some social media platforms. The speech made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe on the 8th of April last year in Parliament is very important. I have entered it as a note in the selection committee. The major process mentioned in this note has already been completed. We all must take actions to not repeat such incidents in the country again. We now expect through the selection committee to gather all relevant information in this connection and to act accordingly in the future. I have expressed views at the selection committee but not mentioned names of any officer. Therefore, we all must be regretted regarding some elements that are attempting to insult some officials through social media.
The Factum think tank launched an analysis of foreign policies titled An Access for New Sri Lanka yesterday at the Lakshman Kadirgama Institute in Colombo. Author of the book, Udita Devapriya, handed over a copy of the book to the President's Senior Advisor on National Security and Chief of Presidential Staff, Sagala Ratnayaka. This book is included with counselling workshops organised in all the 9 provinces and important facts of interviews that were held with the experts of foreign relations. It is significant that all the researchers who have joined this project are below 30 years of age. Director and advisor of the Factum think tank, Ranga Kalansurya, said that the facts included in this analysis are on par with the President's vision on the concept of a digitalized country. He further said that this research analysis will mark a significant milestone in Sri Lanka's foreign policy and it will change the strategic trajectory for the country's future. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa, Acting Foreign Minister Tharaka Balasurya and several others were present at this occasion.
Programs to eradicate dengue mosquito breeding places are being carried out in many places of the country at present. Some dengue control programs are also being held in the Dompe area these days.
Dengue වගකීම අපේ අරමුණයි. ජාතික රූපවාහිනිය සමග මෝටීන්. ඩෙන්ගු නැති හැටක්.
This program is conducted under the title of Dengue Free Tomorrow. This is underway in 12 MOH divisions under the purview of the Dompe MOH office. The health officials have started house-to-house search for possible dengue mosquito breeding grounds. They focused special attention to mosquito breeding places in line with the current rainy weather.
ඩෙන්ගු වගකීම අපේ අරමුණයි. ජාතික රූපවාහිනිය සමග මෝටීන්. ඩෙන්ගු නැති හැටක්.
A workshop was held today at the Water's Edge Hotel on the theme How to Control Spread of Dengue Fever in a Sustainable Manner. This has been jointly organised by the World Health Organization and the National Dengue Control Unit of the Ministry of Health.
So this is about the current situation at dengue in Sri Lanka. So you got 3,000 cases nearly so far. Now the important matter is that now January, February, March, April. So we have got kind of high numbers compared to the other years. And in fact, Colombo, Gampa, Kalutara are responsible for mostly, it's nearly 50%, right? So Central Point is also contributing. So anyway, this is the current situation. So if I look at the situation in the globe, now you can understand 36,000 deaths annually. So number reported are 5.2 million. Clinical manifestation 96 million. 25% of all cases manifested clinically, others are asymptomatic. So then the cases per year is 390 million. 3.9 billion are at risk, mostly in Asia. They say that the mosquitoes are not breeding extraordinarily during the rainy season, not like other animals, right? So if you have the potential breeding site, the conducive environment is there for them to breed. So that's the important fact, across the matter that you would understand.
Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, Mizukoshi Hideaki, conferred the Order of the Rising Sun, Gold and Silver Rays on Mr. Sunil Gamini Vijayasinghe, former President of Japan-Sri Lanka Technical and Cultural Association, in recognition of his distinguished contribution to strengthening economic relations and promoting mutual understanding between Japan and Sri Lanka by disseminating the Japanese management styles in Sri Lanka. Mr. Sunil Gamini Vijayasinghe has played a pivotal role in promoting Japanese management practices in Sri Lanka. As a long-committed member of Japan-Sri Lanka Technical and Cultural Association, he leveraged his engineering background to introduce and implement Japanese management methods, including quality circles, a system involving non-executive employees in enhancing quality and productivity, and the 5S principle, which encompasses sorting, setting in order, shining, standardizing and sustaining to improve corporate management and customer satisfaction. He pioneered to promote the concept Kaizen, a practice of continuous improvement within organizations to the business community. In a ceremony held yesterday at the Japanese ambassador's residence in Colombo, Ambassador Mizukoshi Hideaki commended Mr. Vijay Singha for popularizing and firmly establishing Japanese management techniques in Sri Lanka.
Mr. Vijay Singha practiced Japanese management techniques in many companies in which he had managerial positions, and he disseminated it further in Sri Lankan business community. He advised the government institutions with the Japanese management techniques as well. As a prominent and dedicated member of the Japan-Sri Lanka Technical and Cultural Association, JASTICA, since its inception, Mr. Vijay Singha has shown unwavering commitment to the organization's mission. This has not only contributed to the economic development of the nation, but also led to an overall enhancement in the quality of life for its citizens. In recognition of these outstanding achievements, the government of Japan, with profound gratitude, has decided to confer the Order of the Rising Sun, Gold and Silver Rays upon Mr. Sunil Vijay Singha.
It gives me great pleasure to accept this honor bestowed on me by the government of Japan. This award has further inspired me to promote Japanese techniques in Sri Lanka and promote good relations between the people of Japan and Sri Lanka. I sincerely thank the ambassador and the embassy staff who processed my nomination very skillfully, and also, of course, Mr. Dayasiri Varnakurasuriya and Mr. Atulediri Singh who nominated me. My 40-year journey has been enriching and exciting. It had many obstacles, but today I think it's a different environment. There is a clear demand for Japanese techniques and it is growing. Japanese management has become very popular today. In 1980, only a few people knew about Japanese techniques. Today, after initiating the 5S Award, Quality Circles and Kaizen Awards, and 40 years later, there is hardly anyone who does not know at least a few of the methods. It has been a long 40-year journey promoting Japanese techniques, and I'm proud to note that my initiatives have significantly contributed to the productivity, quality, delivery, safety and morale of Sri Lankan workplaces.
The book titled Father for a Buddha, written by veteran writer Ajanta Seneviratne, was launched yesterday at the Indian Cultural Centre in Colombo. The festival was held under the patronage of Deputy Indian High Commissioner Dr. Satyanjal Pandey and Thailand Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Pothan Pol. The keynote address was delivered by veteran writer W.A. Abhay Singha. Father for a Buddha is the first book of Ajanta Seneviratne written in English. It is a novel written on the life story of King Suddhodana. Ajanta Seneviratne has written many novels, short stories, collection of poetry and lyrics. He is a marketing expert in profession and once worked as the Director General of ChannelEye Rupavahini Corporation. In addition, a singular novel written by him titled Saibaraga was also launched yesterday. The first two copies of this book were presented to veteran actor Sanath Gunatilaka and Douglas Ranasinghe. Mahasangha, university lecturers and many other distinguished guests participated in this ceremony.
I knew King Suddhodana was 45 years old at the time of Prince Siddhartha's birth. He was 74 years old at the time of the Great Renunciation, or in other words, when Prince Siddhartha left the household. At that age, at the age of 74, one day, all of a sudden, the king realized that his son, who was like his own eyes to him, has vanished and nowhere to be found in the palace or in the kingdom. For 29 years, he did everything possible to prevent this journey. Just think for a second about this father's feelings on that day. From that day on, one by one, he faced numerous setbacks. Of course, those are setbacks from his point of view. I realized it was a life story to work with, but I knew there was another side to this story. I have carefully transformed the character of Suddhodana from a mundane position, culminating step by step into a higher level of spiritual attainment. The text that you see on the back cover finally summarizes how he saw everything that happened during his last few years, especially that was nearing his death. Now this reconstruction is available for you to read, where the father-son relationship is explored, of course, from a different perspective. I have dedicated this book to Dr. W.A. Abesingha, not only because of his involvement with it, also because of his enormous contribution to Sri Lankan literature. We are so fortunate to have the diplomatic representation of two very important countries, India and Thailand, at the event today. As far as Sri Lankan Buddhist is concerned, those two countries are so much important for all of us. I am thankful to His Excellency the Indian High Commissioner and His Excellency the Thailand Ambassador for accepting my invitation and gracing this occasion to receive the first two copies of this historic book.
A wild elephant was killed by electrocution in the Mihintale area. Villagers have found the carcass of the elephant in a farming land at Naka Tunuwava area. Upon the information of the villagers, a group of wildlife officers have visited the scene and started preliminary investigations. They have identified the animal was about 25 to 30 years of age. They have also revealed that the elephant was killed by being entangled in an electric wire illegally set up in a field. The suspect has already been taken into custody in this regard and is to be produced before courts. Special feature of elephants living in Mihintale and Mahakandarava areas is having strong pair of tusks jutted up with a curve in the front. Such tuskers are very rare in Sri Lanka. The dead elephants also had a marvelous pair of such tusks.
And here's a few more local stories in brief. The business forum organized by the Sri Lanka Association of Accounting Technicians started in Colombo yesterday. Chief guest of this occasion was Chairman of the Sri Lanka Telecom, Riaz Mihular. Professor Rangika Halvathura of Moratu University delivered the keynote address under the title of Sustainability. Several companies and business institutions that sponsored the business forum were felicitated with awards. Distribution of appointment letters of the new Parivenadipati of Piriven Island-wide was held at the Ministry of Education yesterday under the patronage of State Minister Vijitha Berugoda. 128 appointment letters were distributed at this occasion. The Supreme Court today decided that Ceylon Electricity Board and the Renewable Energy Authority have severely violated human rights by not giving approval to implement a solar power project. The Supreme Court also ordered the Ceylon Electricity Board to pay a compensation of ₹1 million to the petitioners. The Supreme Court has recommended to conduct a detailed investigation and take suitable legal actions against the officials who are responsible for this failure. The petitioner was a private company titled Vaunia Solar Power Private Limited. Foreign news on the other side of this break. And in your foreign news tonight, foreign media reports Shadha ethnic Armenians in Azerbaijan's breakaway region agree to a Russian proposal for a ceasefire a day after Azerbaijan began an offensive to take control of the enclave. Azerbaijan's defense ministry confirms it has reached agreement on a ceasefire in the mountainous ethnic region, which is Armenian populated. Armenian officials say at least 27 people were killed in Azerbaijan's operation, while Azerbaijan says at least one soldier was killed in the offensive. Azerbaijan said it had aimed to destroy military facilities belonging to Armenia's security forces.
And on sports news for tonight, there was an uproar on social media during the past 2 days regarding a change of the Sri Lanka ODI and T20 cricket team's captaincy. Many sports analysts have expressed the view that taking such a decision just ahead of the World Cup cricket tournament would have negative influences on the mentality of the players.
Sri Lanka cricket has not yet officially informed about removing or reappointing Dasun Shanaka from the captaincy. Dasun Shanaka became the captain of the team at a time the team experienced continuous defeats in 2021. However, he became the captain. He drove the team with team spirit towards victorious paths. During the recent Asia Cup tournament, he has been able to bring the team up to a level in skills. Under his captaincy, Sri Lanka team won several tournaments, including the Asia Cup in 2022. In addition, he was able to record 13 match-winning streaks as the world's second best after Australia. Although Dasun Shanaka has been successful as a leader, he has not been so successful as a batsman during the past few matches. Sri Lanka cricket has held several special rounds of discussions regarding this matter. The Cricket Selection Committee held a meeting today until noon. Chairman of the Selection Committee, Pramod Vikramasinghe, and member Romesh Kalvitarana were present at this meeting. Our correspondent reported that skipper Dasun Shanaka was also present at this meeting. Accordingly, Sri Lanka Cricket Selection Committee has decided to keep Dasun Shanaka until the end of the Cricket World Cup. However, Sri Lanka cricket has not yet made an official statement in this manner.
And that's all the news for tonight. Join us again at the same time tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.